come take a look at the Holiday Inn Windsor because I thought that there's the Caesar's Palace, which is right downtown, but this Holiday Inn is one of the nicer ones I've seen. Well, I don't think the Holiday Inn is downtown, but it is nice. It is pretty nice. Windsor's really nice in certain areas. I liked it. I really liked it, especially here in Canada for a city here in Canada. Oh yeah, they have this big place also in Windsor for swimming and all that. It's like a indoor water parky thing. I can't remember what its name was, but I did walk by it. That one's downtown. I'm not sure where this holiday is. Windsor is very quiet. I will mention that. It's not as busy as some of the other cities in Canada. It's actually pretty quiet. So if you do go to Windsor with some money, it's like really it feels like you own the it feels like you own the town, sort of, not own the town, but you feel more than private. You feel more than private when you go to Windsor. You sort of whatever you're doing in Windsor, you generally have the whole area to yourself. It's pretty desolate when I went there. But even though it's desolate, it's still open for business, and there's a lot of stuff open and all that. So that's the cool thing about Windsor. Whereas Niagara Falls is really really busy, and London has a lot of people, and other places have a lot of people. But Windsor's got a lot of people in certain areas, I think, and then there is people that go across the border to Detroit. Go across the border to Detroit. The rooms look pretty nice in the Holiday Inn. They have these banquet hall places. I've been in a few of these, more than a few of these in my life. They have them in Windsor at this Holiday Inn. This Holiday Inn would be good for companies to go with their whole group of people, and they have multiple rooms. They got the big conference room. You're able to go and do all the different things in Windsor as well. And it looks like there's an indoor pool in here too. And the bar and everything. That's really nice to have inside the hotel. It's almost like going down to the United States, I said. When you go to Windsor, it feels a lot like you're in the United States, but no, you're still here in Canada. If you want to go to the United States, you just got to cross the border. That's the vibe there in Windsor. And there's a lot of people from the States. There's a lot of people that aren't. And that's Windsor, but it's a lot different than the rest of Canada. Look at this room. This room is cool. There's a projector screen and whatnot with some multi-level risen seating and whatnot with the office chairs with the desk and everything. This is cool. This is, I don't know what you would call that, but it's really nice. Like a conference room, sort of like an interactive conference room, I think would be the term. You have a fine dining with the also conference. Wow. So they must do some really big uh, sort of sit down for dinner, and then they're also doing demonstrations and all that. I've been to quite a few hotels since I was a kid, all the way into being an adult. I've stayed at the hotels. That was a dream to be able to stay at the hotels myself. I didn't know how it worked. Some hotels accept cash. Some hotels you do it on your Visa debit, and some hotels will only accept credit card. So that's a thing. I always had to get a hotel that would accept cash or debit. But believe it or not, there is some really nice hotels that accept cash or debit. Some of them require a deposit, and some, like I was staying at one that required a $350 deposit on top of the cash to stay there. Looks like there's a Grill 55. So this Holiday Inn looks really nice. A Grill 55 in Windsor. The rooms look nice. This room looks nice too. It's got its own space for if you want to have the MacBook, and I think it has a little kitchenette, even a sink and whatnot. So that's pretty. It's not a full kitchen, but it's a half kitchenette. They might have full kitchens too. Looks like there's two different Holiday Inns in Windsor. There's the Holiday Inn and Suites, and there's the Holiday Inn Express waterfront. Ooh, the Express waterfront sorry, is right on the Detroit River, it looks like. Oh, is that the one she went to? Right at the Detroit River? There used to be a Burger King right over there. I got to sit down and eat there. Oh man, did I eat at Burger King over there. But then they shut that down for some reason. But there, guess what? There's another Burger King in Windsor. It's a different one. I got to go there too. So, but that one that was right at the water, that was a really good Burger King. This pool, they got a pool at this one too, right on the Detroit River. That's cool. And you know what you get to watch on the Detroit River? You get to see the boats go by, and then you look closer, it's the CPB or whatever, the Border Patrol and all that. And you get to watch them, and they're cool. And they also got these big Canadian military boats and all different boats that are at the Detroit River. And you can probably see it from here. And then there's that Caesar's Palace that's right there, and they have a hotel, but it's also a big casino with restaurants. It's got one of these pools in it. That's different. Oh, this might be the area I was talking about with the pools and whatnot. Oh, this one's cool. You got a window where you can see the GM building and all that. This would be a cool stay. I did a lot of these type of stays. You know, you sit down with your computer, but this one specifically has a really nice view. You got the GM building. I got to see that. I even have a picture of that of myself with that GM building and everything. And there's the United States, and then there's the U.S. flags. You can see them and all that. And some people can cross, and some people can't. And so that's cool. I hear a lot about there's different places people go in Detroit, like that little Mexican area or something, little Mexico City or something like that. They were calling it. A lot of gambling. There's also another gambling place off of Wyandotte besides the big casino, because everyone can see. Well, that's the big casino is the Caesar's Palace, but then there's also this large interactive gambling place that's down, sorry, the Wyandotte, down the Wyandotte over by Tim Hortons. That's a really nice place too. I think that one's more for the older folks, the small towner ones that don't want to go to the big casino, and then your city slickers will go over to that big casino. That what was it called? Yeah, the Caesar's Palace. There's the RBC. Lots of big banks. I got to go to the Scotia Bank a few times downtown Windsor. What else did I do Windsor besides the Burger King, the Scotia Bank, the river? I didn't get to stay here, but looks like they have a decent breakfast. Any memories I can get? Oh, it's all a lot bigger when you get there in person. There's a lot of areas at the river that you can this area right here, the river, you have to walk down it. This is I know where this is. You go up here and and it's inclined. There's a whole section to the river. Yeah, the river is really nice and clean. The Windsor was really nice and clean. It was surprising. I don't know, it was just this whole new clean city in Canada that's north of Detroit, and it's right on the river, and it's not too busy, but they got a lot of cool stuff. And I don't know. I never got to see this Little Caesars Arena. I don't know. I was staying in a $3,000 a month Airbnb, so I don't know the perspective of certain ones or whatever, but I was paying $3,000 a month for the one I was staying in. Squeeze the day. Yeah, even I got a picture. Even I got a picture with the GM building right there. That's the picture moment. And they have this college that's right in the middle of Windsor too. I did a big walk around of the college and around the Ambassador Bridge. It's like a university over by the one side is by the ambassador, and then you can walk the other side over to Wyandotte or something like that. I did the whole walk around. I went every part of Windsor. There's all different parts. And then there's, you think you went to all different parts, but I didn't go to all different parts because then you got northern Windsor, and I didn't go to northern Windsor. But I tried to go up to as much northern Windsor as I could, but I couldn't. We were originally from Windsor. My uncle, he has 100 acres here in Ontario. 100 acres he owns. And lots of my uncles and all that were from, had did business in the Windsor. That was, we did the well drilling back when this was back when automobiles were bumping, and then they went down, and all that, and then they're back doing all right now again. This looks like to be this one area of Windsor. I was walking it. There's it's a large area of Windsor that's many different shops and stores and restaurants just like this, but all over Windsor. It's a lot of walking if you're walking it. You can drive it. I did some driving in it too. But it's a really nice walk. Windsor's a really nice walk. Walk the river, then you walk all the streets in it, and then you walk. There's a big highway when it comes to that Ambassador that has a big sidewalk. And then you can walk around the big university property that's right in the middle of the city. I did that. And there's the Greyhound. I think I went there. And I didn't see that. I know this one guy, Jail Jules from Windsor. The Ambassador Bridge is cool to see because I don't think I'll ever see the San Francisco Bridge. So it's as close to the San Francisco as I ever think I'll get. But I met this one guy in jail that was from Windsor. His name was Jail Jules. And he was one of the jail or the jewel or the border city type of guys. But I don't think they even allow this guy in Windsor anymore. They kicked him. They took him to Barton, and then they kicked him right out. They say you're not in Windsor no more. You might have been from Windsor, but you live. You know how it gets in a city when you've been there for too long. That's how Jail Jules was. He was in Windsor for too long, and they went and picked him up, and they cleaned Windsor right up when they got that Jail Jules. They cleaned right up. I don't know if that Jail Jules. Well, obviously, he's not in Windsor anymore. That Jail Jules. Yeah, there's some characters walking around sometimes, but I'll tell you what. They got police, Windsor police, and the border police. All they're populated around there in Windsor. You don't see that Jail Jules. They call him Jail Jules for a reason because he was always in jail. That Jules or whatever. I don't think he was from Windsor and he was there and he would go to a pub and next thing you know the guy was in jail. That Jules, but he made some rap music and I had met him. Jail Jules. He's got some good songs. You can look him up. He was a Greyhound busser type of guy. He was a sit around the certain areas. They have prostitution in Windsor. I mean, if they have it, it's much almost. It's a little bit like a Detroit. It's a little bit like a Detroit, but it's not Detroit. It's Windsor, Canada. But they have real prostitution there in Windsor. I've seen it or whatever. And that's a thing. Some people are looking for a place. Is it like that was a thing when I was a kid? Oh, can you find a place where there's the real women that are walking down the street and all that? Because I came from a place where there wasn't any women walking down the street. We owned our own acres, hundreds of acres or whatever, and I was out in the middle of nowhere. And then you'd hear about Windsor down there, and there's women down there if you want to find women, and there's men down there if you want to find men, and there's casino, and but it's not as lively. It's not very lively like that. It's the people that make it lively. Yeah, it's the people that make it lively. But it's not too out of control. The Windsor isn't. Caesars. There's a lot of performances at the Caesars. And there's people that wear Rolexes in Windsor because I seen this Rolex advertisement because I didn't meet everyone in Windsor. Ooh, there's this one area in Windsor. It's like an old industrial area. They got these big factories in Windsor. You start to get into the American business, American sort of style of buildings, which is really cool here in Canada. When you go down to Windsor, you see real American people wearing their like NASCAR leather jackets, and it's hard to explain. It's such a great place that Windsor is. Yeah, I love that Windsor. Welcome to Windsor. And then there's the Canadian Windsor. There's some history. There's a lot of history. They have a lot of history. The Battle of Windsor, and then there's a lot of business history. I walked the whole business area of Windsor where they have the old big, well, it matches my new gun I got or whatever, the type of Windsor over there. It's like a lot of old brick factory buildings. It's like Chicago a little bit, that Windsor, but it ain't Chicago. It's like maybe like 3% of what Chicago is, I think, because I've never been to Chicago. I've never been to Chicago, but there is some houses and some buildings in Windsor that look a lot like Chicago. It's in this one area. I can't remember what the area is. I never did. I wasn't there for this. Looks like there's a fair, some sort of fair that's on the Detroit River sometimes. Maybe not. No, is that? I don't know if that's Windsor or if that's somewhere else. Look at the old cars and how it used to be in Windsor. It is very much like that in Windsor, but there isn't these cars anymore. I wonder if they do ever bring them out or anything. But yeah, the buildings, the way the signs are, the way people act and all that, it's much like this. But where did all the cars go? Oh, so that's like the Detroit thing where they had all these cars or something like that. And then there was no cars. People were scrapping them. I heard that the mafia used to scrap people's cars and all that. I don't know what happened to all the cars, but look at how it used to be. There used to be all types of these. Well, I'm not sure if they still do have a car. They have the GM that's across the river. This is much what it's like now in Windsor. This one and this one. But it might change all the time in Windsor. Who knows? I remember seeing all types of taxis in Windsor. Here's downtown Windsor. That's where the Scotiabank is and all that. Peterland. Oh, I walked by this in Windsor. It's like this underground pita spot. You're coming out of downtown, you walk by, and he's like lower than you. He's like down here, and you're looking right here, and you can see all the shawarma down here and the pita and all that. And then you come in, you walk down. That's the different thing about the pita land there. I've seen it. They got all types of stuff down. All types of stuff downtown. They're real hard workers in Windsor, I'll tell you. They almost had it right in Windsor. Almost had it right. Midway, at chapter 2. U-Haul. Look at the old U-Haul in Windsor. They got all these different signs in Windsor. Applebee's in Windsor. I mean, if I wouldn't want my mom going to Windsor by herself, I'd recommend her to be with some sort of guy, either me or Uncle Teo or something. Because there's some hard guys out there in Windsor. Like a lot of cities, you'll deal with some guys, they wear their leather jackets and all that. Banana Republic. But then you got your normal people. No one ever messed with me in Windsor. You got big black communities in Windsor. Okay, big. When I say whole neighborhood, black neighborhoods in Windsor, much like the United States is how it is in Windsor. That's different than the rest of Canada. Like in Canada, sometimes you have we have quite a few black people in our city, but we don't have whole black neighborhoods. In Windsor, they have whole black neighborhoods. Whole neighborhoods African American. I remember, I think I crossed the line. It was on Wyandotte. When you're going, believe it or not, it's when you're going north Wyandotte, you can see it change. Uh, Once you hit a certain part north Wyandotte, which is farther away from the U.S., was actually getting into the black neighborhood. It was North Wyandotte, or not North Wyandotte, it's near the river, but still, it's getting up quite a distance. But that's not how it is in Canada. That's how it is in Windsor, Canada, but not anywhere else really, other than Toronto, maybe a little bit. But other than that, that's the United States. That's a thing. The big United States thing. We don't have as many African Americans. Hungry Jack's, Wildlife Thrift Store, Apollo Theater. I got to see a couple of these different theaters down there. They have another big theater. I wish I got a picture at. And the McDonald's. They have a famous McDonald's there I ate at. Lucas, I was renting a room from Lucas. He's a famous Airbnb renter down there in Windsor. One day I got away from him. I went to McDonald's. I had a bite to eat over there. It felt good to get away from Lucas sometimes because he's always hardworking. But Lucas wasn't mad. I thought, Lucas might, but no, Lucas was good. And then Lucas gets to go. Lucas goes all the way to Detroit. He takes the Detroit Tunnel, so, and maybe even takes the Ambassador Bridge too. And I never seen it before, but down in Windsor, it's a thing. Like people dress up in their suits. It's very ma-esque or whatever. Like Lucas used to, when he would go out, he would dress up in a suit and tie. But he was very mafia. Like it's hard to explain. He was young and he looked like he would either get in a fight with you in his suit or something. Like he was doing business. He was doing business, but I don't know what kind of business he was doing. Type of guy. It was funny. Windsor's funny, but at the same time, he was such a good guy and he was so nice or whatever. It's part of their character and all that in Windsor.